Story 1. I moved into my new apartment, meeting quirky Ben. He casually stated his previous roommate, Mark, never truly left. I laughed it off. I dismissed Ben's comment. The apartment felt good. I started arranging books, eager for a fresh start. Days later, my keys moved from the counter to the door. Mark did that, Ben shrugged. He always did. Faint footsteps above, distant whispers. I'd listen, they'd fade. Just the building, I tried to believe. An unfamiliar cologne lingered by the bathroom, not ours. Ah, Mark's favorite, Ben said, nostalgic. My toothbrush was subtly moved, a minor detail yet unsettling. Someone had used it. The thermostat set to 70 was often 75. Mark always liked it warmer, a flimsy excuse. Books out of order, small cumulative things, a silent assertion of presence. I felt watched. Ben constantly mentioned Mark, an invisible, ever-present third roommate only Ben saw. I double-checked locks, a growing paranoia. Was it Ben, or something else? The apartment felt porous. Bedroom lights flickered, prolonged, rhythmic pulses. A cold knot formed. It felt deliberate. Woke to kitchen sounds. Empty, faucet dripped. I swore I'd turned it off. Charger vanished, then reappeared in Ben's room. Mark needed a charge, he claimed, serious. TV turned on by itself, static or Mark sports. Ben just stared, unfazed. Objects oddly placed, a sock on my pillow, a pen on a glass, a sinister game. Cold spots drifted. Mark always brought the chill, Ben explained. I shivered. I barricaded my door nightly, futile but comfort. The apartment's silence grew heavier. Faint scratching from the walls, not rats, deliberate like fingernails. It built, then stopped. My reflection seemed wrong, a fleeting shadow. I'd whip around, but nothing. Ben left Mark food, toast, water. He talked to the empty chair. His delusion deepened. Ben recounted Mark's opinions, heartbreaking and terrifying. A note on my pillow, get out, not Ben's hand. My blood ran cold. My sleep fractured, every creak jolted me. The apartment was a cage. Ben ignored my terror. He'd scold, don't ignore Mark, Alex, it's rude. I spent hours outside, dreading return, lease binding. I couldn't escape. Ben stared at my door. Mark doesn't like you there, he whispered, his room. That's it, I needed answers. Online, I searched apartment history records. Dug through archives, forums, old building, minor incidents, nothing yet. Then a small article, tragic incident in downtown apartment, our address. The article, Mark, a young man, died here, a sudden death, in asterisk this asterisk unit. My blood ran cold. Ben's stories were literal truth. Mark hadn't left, he was here. He was found in his bedroom asterisk my asterisk bedroom, where I felt cold, saw flickering. The pieces clicked, cologne, thermostat, TV, moved items. Mark asserting his claim. Ben wasn't crazy, he was influenced, his mind eroded by a possessive spirit. My reflection pale, hollow. I was next. Mark wanted to replace me. Front door clicked, Ben gone, I was alone. Apartment felt heavier, colder, Mark's presence. Temperature plummeted, breath plumed. Cologne intensified, suffocating, no longer an echo. A shadow coalesced, human-like, darker than gloom, stood silently watching. Profound dread, paralyzing fear, couldn't move, couldn't scream, submerged in ice. A whisper, Alex, Ben's voice, alien, malevolent, a shiver down my spine. Figure moved, gliding closer, form grew solid, gaunt face, eyes burning cold fire. Pressure on my chest, something forcing its way inside, an invasion, attempted possession. This is my home, the whisper echoed louder. You will be me. It clawed at my sanity. Primal defiance, a guttural cry. I pushed back. Raw scream broke paralysis. Figure recoiled, flickering, my chance. I scrambled away from its chilling grasp. I ran, blindly, frantically, heart pounding, burst out downstairs into street. Ran for blocks, gasping, leaning against a cold wall, building a dark silhouette. Everything owns left, couldn't go back. Mark waiting, unbearable. Shattered, lingering chill, phantom cologne, every noise, light, terror. I'll never forget Ben consumed a puppet. Who is Mark awaiting next? Story 2, this happened to me. It started subtly after a particularly stressful event. A low, unsettling hum of unease filled our shared apartment, a quiet dread that settled deep in our bones. Alex, my roommate, and I were both shaken and severely sleep-deprived. We initially dismissed the first flickers of movement we saw in our peripheral vision, chalking it up to exhaustion. We'd often catch each other staring blankly into empty spaces, then quickly looking away as if embarrassed. We'd pretend nothing happened, but an unspoken tension filled the air. Just tired, we'd mumble, a shared excuse that grew thinner with each passing day. The fleeting shadows and whispered sounds grew more frequent, always just out of reach. I remember a night when I heard a distinct whisper, almost my name, right behind me. I spun around, but of course nothing was there, just the lingering chill. The unsettling part wasn't just the occurrences, but their consistency. It was as if we were experiencing the exact same bizarre phenomena, independently yet simultaneously. I'd mention a strange distortion in the hallway mirror, a ripple in the glass that shouldn't be there, and Alex would confess to seeing the exact same thing moments later. It was never a coincidence. It was always the exact same detail, the exact same fleeting image. We started questioning if we were both losing it, our sanity slipping away. We started searching desperately for rational explanations. Could it be a shared stress-induced psychosis, a bizarre form of mass hysteria brought on by our recent ordeal? The apartment itself began to morph, not in grand, obvious ways at first, but subtly. Walls seemed to breathe, the plaster expanding and contracting with a silent rhythm. The patterns on the wallpaper would twist and writhe, forming grotesque, fleeting faces that would vanish the moment you focused your eyes directly on them. The air grew thick with an unspoken dread, a heavy, suffocating presence that clung to every corner of our once familiar home. We could feel it physically. These weren't individual episodes anymore. We were describing and reacting to the exact same terrifying realities, our perceptions perfectly aligned in this growing nightmare. One evening, the shadows under the furniture seemed to deepen unnaturally, coiling and shifting like unseen entities beneath our very feet. We both saw it. Alex pointed at the corner of the ceiling where the paint seemed to be bubbling, forming a blister that resembled a distorted eye. I had been staring at it for minutes. The whispers intensified, no longer just a faint sound, but a cacophony of distorted, overlapping voices, just on the edge of comprehension, always menacing. We scoured the internet for explanations: carbon monoxide poisoning, mold, bizarre psychological phenomena, anything that could give us a rational anchor to reality. We bought detectors, called technicians, had our apartment thoroughly checked. Every test came back clear. No gas leaks, no strange chemicals, nothing out of the ordinary. Yet the visions continued relentlessly. They were growing more vivid, more malevolent, each manifestation a new layer of psychological torture designed just for us. They always aligned perfectly between us. I'd see a spider-like crack spreading across the ceiling, and Alex would point to it, asking if I saw the web. We started sleeping with lights on, huddled together on the living room floor, too terrified to be alone, too afraid to close our eyes and face the darkness. The air would sometimes grow cold, impossibly cold, even though the heating was on full blast. It was a creeping, bone-chilling cold that seemed to emanate from within the walls. Sometimes the furniture would seem to subtly shift its position, just inches, but enough to disorient us, to make us question if we'd truly moved it or if it was an illusion. The reflection in our windows at night would sometimes show grotesque figures lurking just outside, their faces pressed against the glass, only to vanish when we looked directly. The kitchen knives would feel impossibly sharp, almost vibrating with a malevolent energy in our hands. We avoided cooking, living off takeout, fearing what we might do. During one particularly harrowing night, the apartment truly began to twist. The walls pulsed with an unnatural light, the floorboards groaning as if under immense pressure. Our familiar home transformed into an impossible labyrinth. Doors appeared where there were none, leading to dark, unknown corridors that stretched into infinity. The air grew thick with a putrid, metallic smell, like old blood and rust, choking us, making it hard to breathe. It was a smell that pierced our very souls. Then, from a seam in the living room wall where the wallpaper had peeled back, a skeletal figure began to emerge, bone by bone, its eyes burning with malevolence. Its form was impossibly thin, stretched, and elongated, a nightmare made flesh. It moved with a jerky, unnatural grace, its gaze fixed solely on us. That was the moment. We looked at each other, not with the fear of losing our minds anymore, but with a chilling, profound understanding that transcended terror. This wasn't our asterisk delusion. This wasn't psychosis. This wasn't a shared hallucination brought on by stress. Something else was actively creating this shared nightmare. The entity's presence became undeniably real. It didn't speak with words, but through the environment itself, manipulating our perceptions with terrifying precision. The apartment pulsed with a malevolent intelligence, a living, breathing entity that had made our home its playground, our minds its canvas. It whispered our deepest, most primal fears through the distorted reality it wove around us. Every shadow, every sound was tailored to amplify our terror. It wanted us to believe, to fear, to surrender our minds to its construct. It fed on our collective terror, growing stronger with every shared gasp, every synchronized scream. We fled that apartment in the dead of night, leaving everything behind. Possessions, memories, our sense of safety, all sacrificed to escape its grasp. We never looked back. The fear of what might follow us, what might cling to our belongings, was too great. We started anew in a different city, a different home. But even now, in this new, seemingly safe environment, the lines of reality feel permanently blurred. The experience etched itself onto our very perception. We still see fleeting shadows, hear distant whispers that are just out of hearing, always just beyond comprehension. This happened to me, and it never truly ended. The quietest moments are the worst. The silence feels heavy, pregnant with expectation. We brace ourselves, waiting for the familiar dread to creep back in. Every creak of the floorboards, every draft, sends a jolt of terror through us. Is it just the old house settling, or is it a prelude to something far more sinister? We glance at each other, a silent question passing between us. Did you see that? Did you hear that? The shared glances are a constant reminder of our shared torment. We wonder if it followed us, a parasitic entity clinging to our minds, or if it simply imprinted its horror onto our very perception of the world, a permanent scar. The fear is no longer about what we see, but about what we think we see. The line between reality and delusion has been irrevocably shattered, forever blurred. Sometimes the air around us seems to vibrate, a low, almost inaudible hum that takes us back to that first night, the start of everything. We avoid looking into dark corners for too long, fearing what might coalesce from the shadows, what familiar, grotesque face might form in the patterns of the ceiling. Every waking moment is a tightrope walk over an abyss of madness. We cling to each other, our only anchors in a world that feels increasingly unreal. We know it's still out there, or perhaps it's inside us now, a malignant seed that blooms whenever our guard drops, waiting for us to falter again. And sometimes, in the dead of night, when I wake up in a cold sweat, I hear Alex whisper from his bed, "Did you see it too?" And I truly know, it never left us. Story 3. This happened to me. I just moved into a new apartment feeling optimistic. My new roommate Alex was quiet, almost a ghost. A fresh start. Alex kept to themselves, always in their room. We exchanged polite greetings, nothing more. Their presence was subtle, almost imperceptible, a quiet hum in the background. Their room, when I glimpsed it, was stark, minimalist. No personal touches, just a bed and a small desk. It felt transient, like they were always ready to leave. One day, Alex returned with a large, heavy pot. Inside was an unusual plant, its leaves a deep, almost black green. It looked ancient, alien, and strangely beautiful. The plant's foliage was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Thick, waxy leaves spiraled upwards, tipped with a faint, almost imperceptible silver sheen. It exuded an odd energy. "It helps me sleep," Alex murmured when I asked. Their voice was soft, almost a whisper. I found it peculiar, a plant for insomnia, but didn't question it further. I shrugged it off. People have strange remedies. I figured it was some herbal concoction, a natural sleep aid. Harmless, I thought, just another roommate quirk. Alex placed the midnight bloom, as they called it, by their bedroom window. It seemed to absorb the twilight glow, a silent, watchful sentinel in the corner. That first night, a faint, sweet smell drifted into the hallway. I attributed it to new apartment odors, perhaps an air freshener from Alex's room. It was subtle then. I remember waking up feeling refreshed initially, but a vague unease lingered. A feeling I couldn't place, like a forgotten dream. This would soon change. Days turned into a week, then two. The plant grew, not just grew, it surged. Its growth was alarming, visible almost daily, defying natural limits. This was not normal. Its stalk thickened, reaching towards the ceiling. New leaves unfurled rapidly, larger and darker than before. It seemed to consume space, asserting its presence. Then came the tendrils. Slim, almost vine-like appendages began to snake from its core, exploring the air. They were dark, almost black, with a strange, velvety texture. These tendrils pulsated faintly, a rhythmic throb I could almost feel in the air. Like veins or something alive deep within. It was unsettling, profoundly so. The sickly sweet, cloying odor intensified, especially after sunset. It was no longer subtle. It permeated the entire apartment, thick and inescapable. It made me nauseous. The smell clung to everything, my clothes, my hair, even my dreams. It was a suffocating perfume, a constant reminder of the growing presence next door. I asked Alex about the plant's rapid growth. "It's just healthy," they replied, their gaze fixed on the bloom. Their voice was flat, devoid of emotion, almost rehearsed. A dismissive wave of their hand, a quick turn. Alex offered no further explanation. It felt like they were hiding something, or perhaps protecting it. Alex spent more time in their room now, often just sitting near the plant. The air around it seemed to shimmer, a strange, almost hypnotic aura emanating from it. A profound unease settled in my bones. This wasn't just a plant anymore. This was a living, breathing entity, and its rapid escalation was deeply unnerving. The nightmares began subtly, then grew increasingly vivid. I dreamt of roots entwining me, of vital energy being drawn from my very core. They felt horrifyingly real. I would wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, a cold emptiness in my chest, a feeling of depletion, as if something had been siphoned from me during the night. Despite a full night's sleep, I was perpetually exhausted, more tired than before I went to bed. My body ached, my mind foggy. The exhaustion was debilitating. A pervasive sense of dread settled over me, a heavy, suffocating blanket that pressed down on my spirit. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Lethargy became my constant companion. Simple tasks felt monumental. My once vibrant energy was replaced by a dull, aching fatigue that never truly lifted. I felt constantly watched even when alone in my room, a prickling sensation on my skin, a whisper of unseen eyes. The paranoia was relentless, consuming my thoughts. My focus at work suffered dramatically. I made careless mistakes, missed deadlines. My boss noticed, but I couldn't explain the insidious drain on my concentration. I started avoiding Alex's room entirely, especially at night. The door, even when closed, seemed to pulse with an unseen energy. It felt like a forbidden chamber. The sweet odor, now almost sickening, triggered my anxiety. Each whiff sent shivers down my spine, a visceral reaction to the growing horror just beyond the wall. My memory became foggy, days blurring together into an indistinguishable haze. I struggled to recall simple events. It felt like my mind was slowly eroding. Alex, too, was changing. They became increasingly gaunt, almost skeletal. Their skin was pale, translucent, stretched taut over sharp cheekbones, a disturbing transformation. Yet they seemed strangely serene, a disturbing calm about them, as if all worldly concerns had been stripped away, leaving only a vacant, unsettling peace. Their eyes, once merely quiet, now held a vacant, far-away look. Unblinking, unseeing, they were present in body, but their mind seemed to be elsewhere, lost. Alex developed an unsettling, obsessive protectiveness over the midnight bloom. Any perceived threat, even a glance, would elicit a tense, silent stare. I started noticing the plant's tendrils subtly shifting in my peripheral vision. Just a flicker, a movement I couldn't quite catch, always at the edge of sight. At night, a faint, almost imperceptible hum emanated from Alex's room, a low, resonant vibration that I felt more than heard deep in my chest. It was alive. I'd sometimes find Alex just staring at it for hours, unblinking, their vacant eyes fixed on the plant as if in a trance, a silent communion I couldn't fathom. I tried to talk to them to break through. "Alex, are you okay?" My words fell flat, met with only that distant stare. They were gone, replaced by something else. The plant now dominated Alex's room, a monstrous, sprawling entity. Its dark foliage filled the corner, tendrils reaching out like grasping fingers, hungry and vast. Its leaves were unnaturally dark, almost black, absorbing all light. It was no longer a plant, it was a shadow, a void that pulsed with sinister life. I was terrified. One terrifying night, I woke to an overpowering rush of the sickly sweet scent. It was suffocating, thick, a tangible presence in my lungs. My heart hammered wildly. Driven by a horrifying curiosity, a primal fear, I crept to Alex's door. It was slightly ajar, a sliver of eerie light spilling into the otherwise dark hallway. What I witnessed will haunt me forever. The midnight bloom had extended its thickest tendrils. They were connected, embedded into Alex's sleeping form. The tendrils pulsed, a slow, rhythmic beat as if drawing something vital. A faint, almost imperceptible glow surrounded Alex's form, slowly being absorbed by the plant. Alex lay perfectly still, their face serene, almost blissful, utterly drained, not sleeping but utterly consumed. The plant was feeding, and Alex was its willing sacrifice. Horrified, paralyzed by a terror I'd never known, I stood frozen. My mind screamed, but my body wouldn't move. The scene burned into my very soul. I'll never forget. With a surge of adrenaline, a desperate, primal instinct for survival, I broke free. I stumbled back, my legs like jelly, grabbing my keys and wallet blindly. I fled the apartment, slamming the door behind me, not daring to look back. The sweet scent pursued me, clinging to my clothes, a phantom touch of horror. I never returned. The nightmares persist, vivid and soul-draining. I see tendrils in every shadow, feel the sweet scent in every breeze. I am forever haunted. I now live with a profound, chilling fear of all plants, a constant, unsettling knowledge of what truly feeds in the dark, what truly lies beneath the soil it watches. Story 4. This happened to me. I moved into a new apartment, excited for a fresh start. My new roommate Liam seemed quiet, a bit eccentric, but harmless. I immediately noticed a large, ornate wooden box in his room. It was dark, intricately carved, and always kept locked. It radiated an unsettling presence. From that box, a faint, rhythmic thumping sound resonated. It was subtle at first, easily dismissed as pipes or a neighbor, but persistently there. Liam was unnervingly secretive about it. He never mentioned the box, never explained its purpose, and always kept his door firmly shut. I tried to dismiss it, telling myself it was just part of his eccentricity. Everyone has their quirks, right? But the thumping continued. His secrecy became more pronounced. Even stepping out for a moment, he'd ensure his bedroom door was always locked, keys clinking softly. It wasn't normal. A quick trip to the kitchen shouldn't warrant such vigilance. My curiosity began to morph into something else. The thumping from the box grew slightly more distinct. It wasn't louder, but clearer, as if the air around it was thinning. Sometimes the tempo would vary, a slow, heavy beat, then a rapid, agitated rhythm. It sounded almost alive, trapped. I started noticing changes in Liam. His complexion was increasingly pallid, his skin almost translucent under the apartment lights. Dark circles bloomed under his eyes, deepening into bruised purples. He looked perpetually exhausted, as if he hadn't slept in weeks. He moved slower, spoke less, his voice often a strained whisper. It was like he was wasting away day by day, right before my eyes. A growing unease settled over the apartment. It wasn't just Liam, the whole place felt heavier, colder, subtly wrong. I tried to rationalize it, blaming stress, the weather, anything, but the source of the dread always led back to that locked door. Small, unexplainable things began to happen. Objects subtly misplaced, not lost, but moved just enough to be unsettling. My keys would appear on a different hook, a book I was reading would be upside down. I blamed my own forgetfulness at first. Then came the cold spot, a persistent patch of icy air near Liam's door, even when the rest of the apartment was warm. It felt unnatural, like a draft from another dimension, chilling me to the bone whenever I passed by. It was always there. A faint, earthy smell started to come and go, like damp soil or something recently unearthed. It was fleeting but distinct. I'd catch it for a second, then it would vanish, leaving me sniffing the air, wondering if I'd imagined it. I hadn't. The thumping from the box now sounded different. It was deeper, heavier, no longer just a thump, but a resonant thud. It sounded like a heavy heartbeat, slow and powerful, pulsing with an eerie, unnatural rhythm that permeated the walls. Or worse, sometimes it was a muffled struggle, a desperate, contained thrashing. The sound sent chills straight through me. Liam became even more withdrawn. He rarely left his room now, only emerging for late-night excursions I never witnessed. I'd wake to find him gone, then hear faint sounds of him returning in the pre-dawn hours. He was a ghost in his own home. I started experiencing vivid, unsettling nightmares. They were always when Liam was home, never when he was out. Ancient, dark shapes writhed in my sleep, accompanied by an oppressive sense of being crushed, suffocated. I'd wake up gasping. Whispers seemed to echo from empty corners of the apartment, faint, indecipherable voices just beyond the edge of hearing. I'd spin around, convinced someone was there, only to find nothing, just the silence and the faint, incessant thumping. An oppressive sense of being watched became constant. Every shadow felt like eyes, every creak of the floorboards a deliberate movement. I felt a pervasive dread, a primal fear that crawled under my skin. I was no longer safe in my own home. This happened to me. Then came the distinct, foul odor, like stale blood and decay, thick and sickening. It was unmistakable, and it was from Liam's room. It would emanate strongly, then quickly dissipate as if something was breathing it out. My stomach churned with terror. My casual attempts to inquire about the box were met with immediate, chilling defensiveness from Liam. His eyes would harden. "It's not your concern," he'd hiss, his voice low and menacing. His gaze, once timid, now held a desperate, ancient weariness. He seemed to be fighting a battle one I couldn't comprehend, and the box was at its heart. What was he protecting or feeding? One night, the thumping from Liam's room became violent, frantic. It was no longer rhythmic, but a desperate, pounding struggle. It sounded like something immense was trying to break free, splintering the wood. The entire apartment vibrated with its rage. Overwhelmed by terror, yet driven by an irresistible, desperate curiosity, I crept to my door, heart pounding in my chest. I heard Liam leave his room in a panicked rush. His footsteps were heavy, frantic. He was clearly terrified, too. And then the sound of his front door slamming shut. In his haste, he'd forgotten to lock his bedroom door, a fatal error. This was my chance. My mind screamed at me to run, but an unholy compulsion pulled me forward. I had to know. Inside his dark room, the foul smell was overwhelming, almost suffocating. The air was thick with decay and something ancient. I stumbled towards the box, the thumping now deafening, vibrating through the very floorboards. It was right there. A small crack, previously unnoticed, now gaped in the ornate wood. Driven by morbid fascination, I peered inside. And through that crack I glimpsed it, something ancient, pulsating with an inner, malevolent light. It was alive. Its form was indescribable, utterly alien, radiating pure evil. A cold dread, unlike anything before, seized my soul. Then the door slammed open. Liam stood there, his face a mask of desperate, inhuman madness. His eyes were utterly devoid of humanity. I fled the apartment in pure, unadulterated terror, leaving everything behind. I didn't stop running until I was miles away. The police found nothing, dismissing my frantic story as a mental breakdown. I never returned, but I'll never forget that night. The box and whatever it contained is still out there, waiting. Story 5. This happened to me. I'll never forget the old apartment with Alex, our shared bathroom, and its ornate, antique mirror. Just a mirror, I thought, until it wasn't. Alex was easygoing. I blamed fatigue, flickering lights, anything but the mirror. I'd stand there brushing my teeth and a flicker would catch my eye, an unsettling discrepancy. It started small. My reflection's eyes blinked a split second after mine, or its head tilted slightly before I did. A tiny, imperceptible delay. I dismissed it as imagination. One morning, rushing, I glanced in the mirror. My reflection held a vacant stare for a moment longer than I did. A chilling, empty look. Then it was gone, normal. A prickle of unease grew. The bathroom light did flicker sometimes. Old wiring, I rationalized, but a knot of dread began to tighten. The discrepancies accumulated. My own reflection felt like a stranger looking back, not a different face, but a different presence. A coldness in the eyes. I'd quickly avert my gaze, needing more sleep. I remember fixing my hair. My reflection's hand seemed to lift a fraction of a second before my own, a barely noticeable preempting. It felt like a rehearsal. The mirror became a source of quiet dread. I avoided direct eye contact, preferring to look at the sink. This wasn't just a mirror, it was an observer learning. The lag became more pronounced, a full second sometimes. I'd raise an eyebrow and the reflection would follow, but with a deliberate, studied slowness, a performance. One night my reflection smiled, a wide, unsettling grin that wasn't mine. I hadn't even thought about smiling. It held it, then faded. My blood ran cold. I started testing it, small, quick movements, a flick of my wrist, a subtle nod. The reflection would follow, but always a step behind, or sometimes too perfect. The eyes were the worst. My reflection's eyes would sometimes track something behind me, something unseen. They'd dart, then snap back as if caught. A chill. I tried to convince myself it was light or anxiety, but deep down I knew something was wrong. It was no longer passive, it was alive, and it was watching. A twitch of a finger, a subtle shift of expression, not my movements, independent, brief rebellions. It was learning, refining its imitation, becoming more adept at being me. The reflection's gaze sometimes felt predatory, observing me with intense, unwavering focus. It wasn't just mirroring, it was scrutinizing, dissecting my every habit, my nuances. I started timing my bathroom visits, trying to be quick. The less time in front of it, the safer I felt, but the knowledge that it was there, waiting, permeated the apartment. The mirror felt like a window, but to a twisted version of my own world. My reflection, now a chilling doppelganger, perfecting its disguise, ready to step out. I began to dread the bathroom, especially at night. Confronting that perfected mimicry, that silent, observing entity, filled me with a cold, creeping terror. Then Alex's reflection started to appear. He wasn't even in the apartment. I'd walk past, see him in the mirror, a static, unmoving image, then gone when I spun around. One evening, doing laundry, I passed the bathroom. Alex's reflection was there, brushing his teeth, but his smile was too wide, his eyes too black and vacant, a grotesque parody. I screamed, but no sound came out. I rushed in, it was empty. The mirror showed only my terrified face. My heart pounded. This was truly malevolent. I tried to talk to Alex, how to explain grotesque reflections. He'd think me mad. I kept it to myself, but the secret weighed heavily. The reflections of Alex became more frequent. Sometimes his reflection would just stand, observing me from the mirror's depth, a silent, unsettling presence, barely shifting. His eyes in the mirror were the worst. An ancient, knowing malevolence devoid of Alex's warmth, eyes of something old and hungry peering out from his face. I started avoiding the bathroom if Alex was home. The thought of seeing his distorted image, a mockery of my friend, was unbearable. I used my bedroom mirror, wondering its safety. One afternoon, Alex was talking from the living room. I passed the bathroom and his reflection was there in the mirror, but it wasn't talking, just that grotesque, silent smile. The smile was a silent scream, a horrifying caricature of joy, a face from a nightmare, not Alex. The mirror showed me what it wanted me to see, a chilling warning. I felt like the mirror wasn't just showing things, but influencing me, implanting images. A psychological attack, eroding my sanity, making me question reality itself. I began to avoid looking directly into the mirror. A quick glance was all I could manage. Paranoia seeped into my life, making me question everything, especially Alex. Alex's mannerisms seemed off, a new head tilt, a pause before answering, a slight stiffness. I told myself I was imagining things, projecting my fears. His laugh, too, seemed different, a hollow ring sometimes, less genuine, more forced, like he was replicating joy but couldn't grasp its essence. Shivers. He'd have memory gaps. Remember that movie? I'd ask. He'd look blank, then quickly cover it up. It felt rehearsed, not forgotten, a disturbing pattern. I started observing him like a hawk, searching for the Alex I knew. Every gesture, word, expression was scrutinized for discrepancies. It was exhausting, terrifying. The fear wasn't just the mirror, it was Alex. What if the entity was slowly, subtly replacing him? The thought was a cold, sharp blade to my sanity. He seemed to gravitate towards the bathroom more, sometimes just standing in the doorway, staring at the mirror. He'd say just thinking, but his gaze was too intense. I noticed he rarely looked at his own reflection, a quick, dismissive glance, as if he knew what was there and preferred not to acknowledge it or didn't need to. The apartment felt heavy with dread. Every creak, every shadow whispered warnings. The mirror's influence was spreading, poisoning our shared space, our reality. I walked on eggshells, constantly on edge. The line between reality and illusion blurred. Was I imagining this or facing a monstrous deception, my sanity frayed? Alone, whispers emanated from the bathroom, faint and indistinct, like dry leaves rustling. Too soft for words, but the intent felt sinister, a beckoning. Objects were rearranged. My toothbrush in Alex's holder, shampoo moved. Small, deliberate shifts designed to unnerve me to prove its active presence. One night, Alex brushed his teeth. I walked past. In the mirror behind his reflection, I saw it, a fleeting, shadowy figure, tall and gaunt, indistinct, lurking. I gasped, pointing. Alex turned, confused. What? I looked back, it was gone, just Alex's reflection, slightly annoyed. I felt insane, my terror dismissed. The entity grew bolder, whispers grew louder, sometimes sounding like my own name, distorted and chilling. It was asserting its presence, a direct challenge. I knew then, with terrifying certainty, it was preparing to fully manifest, to complete its sinister transformation. The mirror was a gateway. Something was about to cross. Late, Alex out, alone in the bathroom, staring. My reflection moved independently, head tilted. Its lips parted, a distorted alien voice echoed from the glass. I have been watching, it hissed, a grating parody of my voice. Learning, you are a perfect vessel. My blood froze. It knew everything, every fear, every habit. Then it showed me Alex, not his reflection, but a twisted, terrified image, trapped in a swirling void behind the glass. His face a silent scream. It was preparing to swap. A terrifying struggle. My reflection reached out, its hand phasing through the glass, trying to pull me in. An icy grip on my arm, a primal scream ripped from my throat. Desperate, adrenaline-fueled, I grabbed the heavy ceramic soap dish. With all my might, I hurled it. The glass shattered with a deafening crash, splintering. The grip vanished. Police found a broken mirror, a terrified roommate. Alex was gone, or perhaps the Alex who returned was the entity. I moved out, haunted, forever wary of reflections. Was it still out there, waiting?